Hello, welcome. We are going to look at Educ 111, that is Introduction to Education. And as you know, in Introduction to Education, this is week 4. We are going to look at assessment and evaluation. Assessment and evaluation in education. Now, under assessment and evaluation, we are going to look at epistemology of assessment and evaluation. We'll look at the concept of assessment, the function of assessment, the concept of evaluation in education, importance of evaluation in education, principles of evaluation, and after that, there is an assessment. Now, unleashing the potential of continuous assessment in teaching and learning requires an appreciation of the difference in spirit between assessment and evaluation. So we need to get a clear distinction between assessment and evaluation. So assessment is frequently confused and confounded with evaluation. People think that when you talk about assessment, you are talking about evaluation. And when you talk about evaluation, you are talking about assessment. That is not the case. The purpose of an evaluation is to judge the quality of a performance or work product against a set standard. The fundamental nature of assessment is that a mentor values helping a mentee and is willing to extend the effort to provide quality feedback that will enhance the mentee's future performance. While both processes involve collecting data about a performance or work product, what is done what is done with this data in each process is substantially different and invokes a very different mindset. This topic first looks at what assessment is and the various aspects involved. Then, attention will turn to evaluation and its component and principles. Let us look at the epistemology of assessment and evaluation. Epistemology of assessment and evaluation. Assessment and evaluation are two different concepts with a number of differences between them, starting from the objective and focus. Before we go into details about these differences, let us first of all pay attention to the two words themselves. According to Webster Dictionary 2017, assessment means appraisal. Then, according to the same dictionary, that is Webster Dictionary 2027, evaluation is estimation or determining the value of something. I said that according to Webster Dictionary 2017, assessment means appraisal. And according to the same dictionary, Webster Dictionary 2017, evaluation is estimation or determining the value of something. So, these processes are used in the field of education very often to test the quality of teaching and learning processes. That is done to let the educational institution find out what more can be done to improve the education offered by them. Now, let us look at the concept of assessment. According to Brown, 1990, assessment refers to a related series of measures used to determine a complex attribute or an individual or group of individuals. This involves gathering and interpreting information about students' level of attainment of learning goals. Assessments also are used to identify individual students' weaknesses and strengths so that educators can provide specialized academic support. In addition, assessments are developed by a wide array of groups and individuals, including teachers, county administrators, universities, private companies, state departments of education, and groups that include the combination of these individuals and institutions. In classroom assessment, since teachers themselves develop, administer, and analyze the questions, they are more likely to apply the results of assessment to their own teaching. Therefore, it provides feedback on the effectiveness of instruction and gives students a measure of their progress. As Brown 1990 maintains, two major functions can be pointed out for classroom assessment. One is to show whether or not the learning has been successful, and the other one is to clarify the expectations of the teachers from the students. Georgia's 2003 defines assessment as a general term which includes all methods used to gather information about children's knowledge, ability, understanding, attitudes, and motivation. Assessment. I want to point out that assessment is the process that includes four basic components. One of them is motivating students to study. Two, ranking the students' capabilities in relation to the whole group evaluation. Another process includes measuring improvement over time. And lastly, evaluating the teaching methodology. To sum up all, the term assessment refers to the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document the academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition, and educational needs of learners. What is, I want us to move and look at the purpose of assessment in education. The purpose of assessment in education. Now, the purpose of education, of assessment in education, can be looked at in the light of gathering relevant information about students' performance or progress, and two, to determine students' interests to make judgment about learning progress. After receiving after receiving this information, teachers can reflect on each student's level of achievement as well as on specific inclination of a group to customize their teaching. Continuous assessment provide day-to-day feedback about the learning and teaching progress. Assessment can reinforce the efficacy of teaching and learning. It is it also encourages the understanding of teaching as a formative process that evolves over time with feedback and input from students. This creates good classroom rapport. Student assessment are necessary because throughout a lesson or unit, the teacher might want to check for the understanding by using a formative assessment. Students who are experiencing difficulties in learning may benefit from administration of diagnostic tests, which will be able to detect learning issues such as reading comprehension, inability to remember written or spoken words, hearing or speech difficulties, the problem with hands hand-eye coordination. Students generally complete a summative assessment after completing study of a topic. The teacher can determine their level of achievement and provide them with feedback on their strengths and weaknesses. For students who didn't master the topic or didn't master the skills, teachers can use data from assessment to create a plan for remedial or remediation. Teachers may also want to use information or informal assessment technique. Using self-assessment, students express what they think about the learning process and what they should work on. Using peer assessment, students get information from their classmates about what areas they should revise and what areas they are good at. Let us look at the types of assessment. We have pre-assessment or diagnostic assessment. We also have formative assessment. We have summative assessment. We have conformative assessment, non-referral assessment, reference assessment. Those ones are type of assessments that we are interested in. So let us look at the first one, the pre-assessment or diagnostic assessment. Before creating the instruction, it is necessary to know for what kind of student you are creating the instruction. Your goal is to get to know your student's strengths, weaknesses, and the skills and knowledge in process before taking the instruction. Based on the data you have collected, you can create your instruction. Formative assessment. Formative assessment is used in the first attempt of developing instruction. The goal is to monitor students' learning to provide feedback. It helps identifying the first gaps in your instruction. Based on this feedback, you will know what to focus on for further expansion for your instruction. Summative assessment. Summative assessment is aimed at the extent to which the most important outcome at the end of the instruction have been reached. But it measures more the effectiveness of learning, reaction on the instruction, and the benefits on the long-term base. The long-term benefits can be determined by following students who attend your course or test. You are able to see whether and how they use the learning knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Confirmation or conformative assessment. When your instruction has been completed in your classroom, it's necessary to take assessment. Your goal with conformative assessment is to find out if the instruction is still a success after a year. For example, if the way you are teaching is still on a point, you could say that a conformative assessment is the extensive form of formative assessment. Non-reference assessment. This compares a student's performance against the average norm. This could be the average national norm for the subject history, for example. Other examples is when the teacher compares the average grade of his or her student against the average grade of the entire school. Create a criterion reference assessment means students' performance against a fixed set of predetermined criteria or learning standards. It checks what students expected or are expected to know and be able to do at a specific stage of the education. Criterion reference the test are used to evaluate a specific body of knowledge or a skill set to its test evaluation or curriculum. Now, let me allow you reflect on what I've said before I move and talk about assertive assessment. Now, there is somebody who is saying that he's not getting me properly. I really don't know if he or she is the only one, or we have other students who have this same problem. Now, observative assessment. Observative assessment measures the performance of a student against previous performance from the same student. With this method, you are trying to improve yourself by comparing current to previous results. Now, the role of teachers in classroom assessment. What is the role of teachers in classroom assessment? What is the role of teachers in classroom assessment? A teacher, one of your main roles as a teacher, one of your main roles is to motivate your learners to develop their ability and aspiration to learn. You may read about delivering teaching and facilitating learning, but in reality, you do much more than that. Your role is not just about teaching your subject or preparing learners for assessment. The focus of your role as a teacher relates very much to inspiring your learners to change and develop their personal, social, and professional skills to the best of their ability. In this respect, your ultimate aim is to enable your learners to understand how to take responsibility for their own development. You can do this by planning and preparing teaching and learning activities that take account of the needs and well-being of individual learners as well as group learners. So you as a mentee, teacher as a mentee, you are supposed to provide feedback and support to students. Teacher as a guide, you are supposed to guide or to gather diagnostic information to lead to group through the work at hand. Teacher as an accountant, you are supposed to maintain records of students' progress and achievement. Teacher as a reporter, you are supposed to report to parents, students, and to school administration about students' progress and achievement. Teacher as a program director, you are supposed to make adjustments and revision to instructional practices. So the key, some key aspects of your role as a may include carrying out initial or diagnostic assessment, clear communication with your learners, other professionals, and stakeholders, promoting appropriate behavior and respect for others, identifying and meeting individual learners' needs, being aware of the support mechanisms that are available, being organized, and being reflective, which means learning from successes as well as mistakes that you have made during your lesson. We have various types of assessment, and these ones are assessment form, assessment of, and as. Assessment for is assessment for learning. It is referred to as formative assessment. Assessment as, this is assessment of learning or summative assessment. That is assessment of learning. That is summative assessment. Assessment as is assessment as learning. That is metacognition or learning how to learn. And remember, uh, CBC education stresses on assessment as, that is learning to learn. What is the purpose of evaluation? Evaluation plays a vital role in teaching learning experiences. It is an integral part of instructional program. It provides information on the basis of which many educational decisions are taken. We are to stick to the basic function of evaluation, which is required to be practiced for pupil and his learning processes. In few words, the purpose of evaluation is to determine the current state of the objective of evaluation, to compare the status with a set standard or criterion, to select an alternative in order to make decisions. What are the functions of evaluation? Evaluation is meant for assessment function. It has an instructional function. It has a diagnostic function. It has a predictive function. It has administrative function. It has a motivation function. It has development function, and it also has research function, and lastly, communication or communicative function. So the first function of evaluation, as we said, is placement function. Evaluation helps to study the entry behavior of children in all aspects. Individual is individualization of instruction. It also helps to select pupils for higher studies, different vocations, or specialized courses. Education for instructional functions. A planned evaluation helps a teacher in deciding and developing the ways, methods, and techniques of teaching. It helps to formulate and reformulate suitable and realistic objectives of instruction, which helps to improve instruction and to plan appropriate and adequate techniques. Evaluation also helps in the improvement. It helps to assess the different educational practices. The third function of evaluation is diagnostic. Diagnostic. Evaluation has to diagnose the wins in the school program as well as the weakness of students. It also helps to suggest relevant remedial programs. The attitude, interest, and intelligence are also to be recognized in each individual child that may be re- uh, energized towards a right direction. Now, for today, we've talked about assessment and evaluation. Assessment and evaluation. And I think that is enough for today. See you tomorrow. Have a good evening and good supper.